Hello there, I'm a fruit line. Do you like bobbin puzzle soundtracks, colourful and unique characters trying to murder you, and the best version of a game after God knows how many sequels? What is that? Then let me introduce you to Bust a Move 2, aka Puzzle Bobble 2. Puzzle Bobble is a beloved simple puzzle game staring into my soul that revived the cast of the truly beloved Bubble Bobble. The goal is simple: match the colours, drop the bubbles, clear the grid. The original game's preset order of puzzles make it the bare bones of something much greater to come. Enter Bust a Move 2, not to be confused with a dancing game formerly the same name. Maybe I should look at Groove, I do like my rhythm games.
And it's smelling good, sir!
Released in arcades in 1995 but joined in the beloved PS1 in 1996, this was one of the first video games I ever played, whereupon I just fired my bubbles in a straight line to my doom. I am not smart. The other game I first started out with was Fantasia on the Mega Drive. It also holds a special place in my heart, but for entirely the wrong reasons. But before I go on a tangent that I might regret, shall we dive in and bust some bubbles? Ready? Ready? Bust a Move 2 opens with this eerie 3D model of Bub that used to terrify me. I found it more scary than the bad end of the Lego Island or the death animation in The Lion King, which is literally named Death. Following this was some cute extra intro sequences made for Bust a Move 2X, but more on that in a little bit. Depending on the time of year, you got some adorable animations. I love this Christmas one, look how wholesome it is. From the title screen you get the main game option and time attack mode, which surprisingly didn't come back in the Switch remaster of Bust a Move 2 and 2X. Bust a Move 2X being an arcade exclusive version of the game. I couldn't find much trivia about it, but I did discover if you input sex on the high score screen, it automatically gets turned into a AAA. Some versions let you unlock the 2X levels via a cheat code, or that monster. And of course there's some options. I remember the manual for the PS1 game making a big deal out of the screensaver mode. From the way they described it, you'd think you were paying full price for just that alone. Do you remember those old Windows 95 discs that contained literally just wallpaper slideshows of screensavers? I miss when technology was simple. You know, things like this, Sonic the Screensaver. Why don't we take a moment and stare into the dancing lights and relax? Okay, we're done. So, to safely cover the basics of the game, you must clear your stage of the coloured bubbles to pass. When you match 3 or more of the same colour, they pop. If there are any bubbles hanging under the ones you just popped, they'll fall off the screen, scoring you more points and a faster clear time. Now, the mode you see here is Time Attack mode, where you're given 50 puzzle stages to conquer, many of which are from the main game but with a new coat of paint. You can save your best times to the memory card, but the best part is you can play Time Attack in 2-player mode with the stages being randomised, essentially turning it into competitive puzzle mode, which I'm honestly surprised has never come back to the series, at least to my knowledge. The stakes are very low in this mode. You can try a stage 3 times and then move on to the next one. And in 2-player mode, you can't attack your opponents when you drop bubbles off screen. It's purely about beating your records. Or in 2-player mode, proving that your friend, sister, brother, etc. has a bubble for a brain. And, you know, before I start going proving too much about myself, let's move on to puzzle mode. Considered the main game mode of Bust a Move 2, and easily the most lengthy, I actually didn't put as much time into this when I was young as I probably should have, though these days I can comfortably say it's considerably tougher than, say, Bust a Move 3's puzzle mode. You've got a limited number of credits or retries. When you fail a puzzle, in exchange for 1 credit, you are granted another go and an aiming guideline. The bulk of puzzle mode comes from following these letters up a map. Each letter has 5 puzzles behind it. And sure, it starts easy enough and gives you lots and lots of points in no time at all, but it quickly grows to throw grids at you like this, where even that cheesy aiming cursor can't save you. Puzzle mode likes to bring in occasional special bubbles to mix things up, like these honeycomb blockades, or the star bubble which gets rid of the same colour it touches first. Often these puzzles have you wondering which colour will give you the biggest shortcut to the top of the grid. Not all special bubbles are helpful though, such as the annoying clear bubbles which cannot be popped and must be dropped. The Switch manual gives these the brilliant name of trouble bubbles. Making it to the top of the alphabet map will reward you with different endings depending on which letter you finish round 25 on. These include things like "You found the treasure box," or "Now you have friends," or "Now you are king." You can even get married. I have many questions. Puzzle mode is both a survival test trying to reach the final hurdle with as few mistakes as possible, and a wrestling match with the strange physics. See, you can press L or R to slightly nudge your aiming arrow for precise shots. It can be amazing how the smallest nudge can make all the difference, either clearing the round or cutting you off. The biggest issue I have with puzzle mode is these stages with the large grids, though this complaint applies to later games too. See, while the mechanics are no different from regular stages, it's just harder to visualise where the bubbles will travel. And yet it can't take away from the simple charm of this mode, where almost no two runs are alike on your way up the map. But the real meat of the game in my eyes is in versus mode. In versus mode, the goal is to overflow your opponent's grid before they do the same to you. The more bubbles you can drop off your screen, the more you send to your opponent. All the while the screen proceeds to wobble and drop like Magnus's belly in Spyro Reignited.
Why can't he exist?
This mode introduces a number of colourful, memorable characters, and they're all playable with cheat codes, such as Woolen, Chonkita, A Pair of Hands, I Can't See Shit, and Sonic. I think there's a reason that he was cut from the full game, you know. You get to see these adorable and sometimes scary cutscenes, where Bub gets to meet the obstacles blocking his path, on his journey to rescue the stolen stars and return them to the night sky. It's up to us to protect this little green boy. The first 2 rounds aren't particularly tough, but every 3 rounds the difficulty spikes up, probably to get arcade goers to sacrifice their coinage to the Woolen gods. The pretty in pink Woolen, or the dreaded Pixie as I used to name her, was the bane of my existence in my childhood. But fun fact, I actually found an arcade cabinet for this game in a water park in Spain. The very first enemy there, Monster, kicked my ass, and I never ever forgot the shame. As well as the sheer amount of characters, colours and bopping music, the beauty of versus mode is in how fair it feels. Unlike future games, all characters attack the same way, and all attacks send up bubbles randomly. That means you can't just make a huge tower of bubbles, because you risk that little gap at the bottom being flooded by your opponent's next attack. You're constantly under threat from your opponent, just as much as they are under threat from you. Despite some difficulty spikes, this mode feels extremely satisfying to master. The credits music still makes me a bit misty-eyed, I have to admit. When I heard it for the first time, it felt like a huge achievement for me. Probably because up until then I just played maybe the first or second level of a game repeatedly. This was the first time a game truly made me feel accomplished and that I genuinely improved after so many attempted runs through the mode. And that very much covers 3 modes of pure puzzle bliss. Oh sure, the physics of the bubbles can sometimes make you say rude things that no bubble dragon should ever have to hear, but on the whole, it's a well-stylized, beautifully presented, catchy, and above all, addictive game that has had me hooked for nearly 30 years. Wow, I'm old. Somebody please help him, I did this to him. The birdie saying bye-bye is doing nothing. Help him! Much of the footage you've seen here is from the recently re-released collection of Bust-A-Move 2 and 3. It's a steal at £12 of all the features you'd expect, such as rewinding and save states. Bust-A-Move 2 now also features an edit mode where you can create your own grids and share them with absolutely nobody but yourself. It's also very easy these days to set up a game of Versus Player mode, which was my official introduction into video games. Versus Player functions the same way as Versus CPU, except you can now play as Bob. Aww. If you still have access to a PS1, Bust-A-Move 2 is often dirt cheap, usually £5 or less, and in my eyes the best version of this game. But if you only have access to a modern console, you're still getting a great deal on one of the most special, adorable, and well-made puzzle games out there. To this day, very little can even come close to its quality for me. It truly stands the test of time and feels like it was only made yesterday. I'll probably carry these diminutive little dragons in my heart to the day I die. And now, I hope that you'll find a place in your heart for them too. Thank you for joining me on this special little throwback to a game that means quite a lot to me. And remember, Fruit Line is not made of actual fruit. But why don't you try the bubbles instead? They look like they'd be fruit flavoured.